Okay. In the morning session, as well as in the second session, we have just seen regarding the management aspects, as well as throughout the second session, we have seen regarding human resource management. Now, let us analyze in block 3 and block 4 various aspects related to organizational development and the rest. Block 3 concentrates on organizational development, whereby it has been divided into unit 6, 7, 8, and 9, where we'll be concentrating on our overview of organizational behavior, conflict management and negotiation, leadership and group dynamics, and communication and feedback. As I focused earlier, I'll be concentrating on the very important points on these aspects. Unit 6 starts with the organizational behavior definition and historical background of the organizational behavior, the framework of organizational behavior, the scope, and emerging issues and their impact on OP, the globalization, diversification of workforce, emerging employment relationship, and the IT and OB and work values and ethics. I'll be concentrating on the most important issues here, whereby I think we need to concentrate maximum on the leadership, communication, conflict management. Hence, I will be concentrating a fewer slides for overview of organizational behavior, whereby I'll definitely completing regarding the organizational behavior scope and definition. The organizational behavior, what is OB? Uh, as I said in the morning, that organizational behavior is a really interesting uh, aspect to study. The subject is very interesting because something where we are studying regarding behavioralistic pattern of an people work of the people working in the organization. So it is all about behavior. So it is always interesting psychologically to speak about the behavior or understanding the behavior of others, or concentrating on other psychological aspects of the persons in the organization, because in turn we will also be concentrating on understanding their behavior, so that if there are any modifications that are required, we can definitely mold the behavior. All this we will be definitely attempting in order to bring out the more productivity of the organization and the improvement in the individual as well and society at large. So organizational behavior stakes about or studies about the human behavior in the workplace, interaction between the people and the organization, and the organization itself. So it is talking regarding the three dimensions. One is the human behavior, whoever is in the workplace, or whoever is working in the workplace, of their behavior will be studying, and how do they interact between the people and in the organization, and the organization itself, what it has to tell us, what it has to focus on, that we'll be studying in the organizational behavior. So organizational behavior is primarily referred as behavior of individuals, groups within the organization, and the interaction between organizational members and their external environments. So it is all about, we can say, the behavior you're studying of the individuals, as well as, if not individuals, it is within the groups, and how do they behave within the organization. Because you're talking about organizational behavior, you'll be studying the behavior of the individuals working within the limits of permits of organization, and how do they interact with each other, what are the impact of external environments, or how do they interact with the external environments, what is their reaction. All this we'll be studying in this particular aspect. So, scope of organizational behavior says that organizational behavior is not one particular discipline which has been derived from only one particular aspect. It has been derived from various disciplines. It talks about psychology, it talks about sociology, it talks about political science, anthropology, communication, economics, industrial, etc. Now, what does that mean? That means to say that it is organizational behavior is an embodiment of psychological aspects, like some of the psychological aspects you study in that stream, like personality, perception, leadership, motivation. We study those aspects in organizational behavior also. What are the concepts you study in sociology, like socialization, group dynamics, communication? All this will be studying in organizational behavior also. In political science, you will be studying regarding administrational conflicts, coalitions, inter-team conflicts, etc. All this will be studying in organizational behavior. Anthropology, understanding about the environment, you will be talking regarding managing diversity, cross-cultural communication, rituals, culture, corporate culture. We'll be studying again in OB. Communication, technology, corporate culture again, social media, economics, you talk about negotiation strategies, decision making. Industrial concept, you talk about job design, productivity, work management. So all these concept is where you are deriving various factors from various discipline, and it is one full compound, that is organizational behavior. So organizational behavior is an whole process where it has been derived. The concept of the organizational behavior has been derived from various disciplines like psychology, sociology, political science, anthropology, etc. So it is not one concept. And so we have emerging issues and their impact on OB. We can talk about globalization, the changing workforce nowadays. You talk about dual couple earner family, and you talk about the multi-skilling of the employees, or the emerging employment relationship, the technology, the information technology that it is hampering on nowadays on the employees. All these are the emerging issues that have either the positive or the negative effect, or some kind of impact on the organizational study of organizational behavior. I would like to choose only one aspect in this, that is emerging employment relationship. So job for life contract is being gradually reduced by a new deal called employability. What is that? It speaks about job design, career dynamics, workplace stress. Besides adaptation to a rapidly changing business environment, you talk about now career dynamics, you talk about job design. So, what are the trends you exactly follow in employment relationship in our country? Or workforce percentage have been increasing in contingent works, contractual aspects, multi-skilling employees. You seek the versatility of the employees nowadays. You want that one employee to be multitask. Outsourcing of job has been talk of the day. It has been order of the day. Like outsourcing of the task in the sense, say you are outsourcing the payroll, you are outsourcing various jobs of the employee. That is not said to only as a part of the organization. Now payroll has been outsourced. Some of the employees will be working for you from the outsource. So these are the things which are making much more complex in the relationship of employment. I mean, employer employee, how do they maintain the cordial relationship is a matter of question. Percentage of workforce are also increasing. Now we require multi-skilling of employees, and the employees that you procure is from the outsource. How do you really see that the organization development is being taking place on these standards or on these benchmarks? One more aspect we should discuss is regarding work values and ethics. Ethics, as you already know, probably I believe you already know that ethics is all about the good and bad. To talk in a layman's language, and values always helps us to make the things or organize the things in the workplace, to keep it in order in a systematic way, so that it will help the organization to run in a smoother manner, in a profitable manner. If there is no ethics, no values, definitely it will not result in the good environment, it will definitely lead to the termination of employees. We have seen many live examples from our own eyes. We have seen regarding many of the scams that have been taken place, that without the values being followed, without the ethics being given the priority, how many scams have already happened, starting from Harshad Mehta to Karthik Parekh, or you talk about Satyam, or you talk about any of such kind of aspects regarding where ethics and work values are being denied, they are not being followed properly, then definitely it would result in termination of the employee, or even it is not where the organization is going in a progressive way or a developmental way. So these aspects the organizational behavior have to portray on. Apart from it, this I, as I've already told you, I'll be directly moving to unit 7 and 8, especially because there are much more to discuss regarding leadership, regarding conflict, many of such things is there to discuss. So we'll directly move to unit 7 now. Unit 7 speaks of several different things, like what is conflict, what are the views of conflict. Like you go for traditional view, how was the conflict being done, being taken as perceived, the conflict was perceived, and how the human relations view are there in order to perceive conflict, how the interaction the view of interactionist are there in order to perceive conflict, how many kinds of conflicts are there, and which are the sources, and how the conflict management has been taken place, what is the negotiation process. All this will be concentrating now. Now, conflict, what do you mean by conflict? According to one particular philosopher or a person, Uday Parikh, he says conflict is the perception or feeling by one party or an individual or group that the other party is hindering the first party from achieving a goal. So, we can just assume here is the conflict is where you find that one party is trying to striving to achieve one particular goal, the other party is trying to hinder that, or the other party is acting as an obstacle or expressing the way in order to not to achieve that goal. So that is where the conflict does arise. Now there are different views of conflict. Conflict always mean to say in a layman's language it is not good, but I usually ask my students also, how do you view conflict? Is the conflict necessary? Sometimes yes, we feel that conflict is necessary if it is taken in a positive way. Say for example, if I would say them, give an example, like you go for a group discussion, or you act as a debate. I'll be giving them certain concepts on IFRS, whether it is needed to India or not, whether it can be adopted or not, some of the accounting streams or any other such streams. So that healthy debate is definitely necessary, that healthy conflict is definitely, if it is the conflict is between groups, we tell them that it is most not needed, or between individuals it is not. However, such conflicts, if it is taken in a competitive manner, helping them or facilitating them, fostering them in order to give or create the new ideas, then definitely the conflict is welcome, right? But how is that the conflicts are being viewed in different ways or in different centuries, I mean sorry, different decades, that we are going to see right now. If you would have seen that from the traditional view in 1930s and 40s, that kind of conflict was completely judgmental. Management made all efforts to avoid conflict at workplace. They would have given monetary benefits, non-monetary benefits, help asking them not to show any sign by management. They would have given the incentives and asked the employees not to go for strikes. All these things were there. That was a traditional view of conflict. They were not. They were just trying to avoid. Management were making all the efforts to avoid the conflicts at workplace, because if they form the union, they have to go on strike, the trade union becomes stronger, and they have to just completely close the company. All these things were going on in the traditional view of conflict. But what happened in human relations conflict? Human relation conflict just completed in the year, I mean started in the year 1940s and till the 70s it was being accepted that here how did they view the conflict? Individuals work together, they are bound to have the conflicts at the workplace. So the assumption has changed thyself. The assumption says that there is inevitably there will be conflicts in the workplace. You can't avoid the conflicts. It is what the human relation view has said. Human relation view said that you can't definitely avoid the conflict. Conflict is as though it is the talk of the day. So that was the view. So what could be done? Management made the attempts to suppress them through different tactics. Strategies were there. So which are the strategies? It was like allocation of resources, performance, giving the issues on performance, building yardsticks, giving incentives, helping them to have more productivity, having quality issues, giving more facilities to them, so that the conflicts would be very peaceful. Rather than using the force, or rather than asking them not to have, that everything went in a very smoother way. Conflicts here at the workplace were accepted, and the focus shifted towards handling conflicts rather than suppressing them. So, handling the turbulence was being made a focal point in human relations view. But what happened in interactionist view? Interactionist view said that no, the management should encourage some level of conflict. Now, this is a completely a different view. And nowadays we welcome that also. Why? Because everybody are awake to the changes within and outside the organization. So some types of conflict is definitely needed in the question. If such kind of low level conflict is there, then only it leads to questioning of certain things, or otherwise you would have simply accepted whatever the management has made the discussion, whatever the management has come to the decision. Now we have come to a course of time where we are questioning the decision of the management, because we too have some sense of belongingness. We too have can have a word in the organization. Representatives are there, they are going to ask us. But however, one thing should be there, that if the conflict it should be at lower level only. If it is going out of the control, then definitely that is not a healthy one. Not only that, that questioning of such kind of things has helped the organization, but it will take this kind of interaction, it will take to fresh perspective of things from time to time. From time to time you will be able to change yourself, adapt yourself to the environment which is arousing. I say some might be really giving you a chance to mold upon. Some might be really giving you a warning signal. So in the near future, if this decision is taken place, what will be the impact? So that kind of interaction, or such a small quantity of conflict, is absolutely positive from the organization point of view. So it is not, definitely not a negative perspective. So this is the interactionist view. We had three views being given. One is traditional view of conflict, where conflict, they would have asked the persons to not to have the conflict by giving monetary or non-monetary situation, or as I mean facilitations. Human relations view, they thought that yes, conflict is definitely an absolute one in any of the organizations, so we can use certain strategies in order to avoid that. But interactionist view had a different view, that yes, they said that questioning is definitely necessary to change the perspective or think afresh, and go in a different manner. So a little bit of positive aspect is definitely being encouraged in the interactionist view. Now, how many types of conflicts are there? There are conflicts within an individual, between individual, within a group, between group, organizations, as well as organization and its environment. These kind of conflicts are there. We are sometimes only aware that conflicts are being there within the group, or between the groups, or in the organization. But conflicts are within the individuals also. When I say conflict within the individual, it happens at the individual level only. Because when an individual has per se that he has certain goals to achieve, and there are too many amongst them he has to select, then that is a conflict that arises within an individual. So, individual is not in hostility with any other individual or group. That means he is not having any conflict with any other personnel or with any other group, but he is having the conflict within himself, wherein he has to choose, say for example, between two jobs, a choice between two places, a choice between promotion or transfer. So this is an individualistic one. Say for example, many of them may reject the promotion because they have to move to different places, but simultaneously that is also helpful in order to move up the career ladder. So this is an individual conflict which probably every individual will face in one way, in one phase of life or the other. So this is where you find individual conflict, and that is what is termed as conflict within an individual. Conflict between individuals, here it is not within, but it is between individuals. Between individuals means to say that it was between two or more individuals. If they are having any differences between them, they're bound to have differences. Definitely every individual is unique and their perception need not be like-minded. They might go in a different way, so expressing in a different way regarding the views, that might be completely different. The differences might be, it may also go through like pinpointing others weakness, publicly criticizing others. All these aspects we generally see when it goes between the individuals. It is quite common at the workplaces also. Some dislike others, they do not tend to work with them. They involve in always deploying the wrong image of others. All these are quite common. So this is when it is between two persons, two individuals or two or more persons, it is conflict between individuals. When it is conflict within a group, within a group, in the sense, it is most common name attributed, the most common name attributed here is the team. Within a team, if there is a conflict, say every time when there is a group might say, for example, you are having a purchase department, you are having a production. Within that purchase, within that production, within that quality, it definitely parts a team. It definitely sees a team, you definitely see a group. Within that group, if there is an individual difference, because each of the individuals come from diverse background, and they possess varied expertise, they have different educational qualification. Many such things does create a conflict. So if it is between the individuals within a group and the conflict arises, that conflict is within a group. If you say that conflict is between the group, then say each functional group depends on the other functional group for the accomplishment of goals. So there is definitely a formal relationship between, say, production is department, department is dependent on sales, sales is department is dependent on marketing, marketing is, interdependency is always there within the organization. And if there is a conflict between these groups in order to achieve or accomplish a goal, say one group is not willing to act as per the expectation of the group, marketing department is saying something, production is saying something, quality is saying something. So when there is a discrepancy here amongst the groups to achieve a particular or a singular objective, then that is conflict within the, I mean, between the groups. So sometimes what happens, problems arises due to overload of some groups, and status differences might be there. Even sometimes pay differences, role ambiguities in the sense confusions, ambiguities in the sense you are not sure the role, about the role that you are going to play in the group, you are not at all only sure about what is the role that I am supposed to play. So role ambiguities are there, lack of proper communication system, lack of understanding of each other role, lack of go together attitude, all these aspects will definitely pave you the way for conflict between the groups. When you're talking about conflict between the organization, obviously it will be between two organization, right? More than one organization also. So between organization, in the sense, if it is of the same business, who are competing in the same market, but you are having the competition which has taken as heights of organization and trying to fight with each other. Sometimes it becomes so rivalry, it becomes so no, uncompetitive also. They're also not only trying themselves out but also portraying an ugly image of their competitor. That also happens. We have seen the same thing in the conflict between individuals, right? So where do they compete really? Then they compete for raw materials, they compete for customers, increasing market share, pulling down of others' legs, imitating competitor. We see this imitating the competitor products to a greater peak in most of the advertisement. In its own peak, we see in most of the advertisement nowadays. So it is between organization does the competition has aroused. So it is the conflict between two organization that is called as conflict between organization. It is not only that the conflict is in the individual, between the individual, within the group, between the group, in the organization, but also the conflict is between an organization and its environment also. So when you say and its environment of course can have internal and external environment. But when you are talking about environment, most of the times when we talk about external environment, say organization, many a times you see that the industry has left some of the wastage in the water, in the sea, or the smoke has been harassing the environment, the poisonous smoke is there. Many such things, when it is coming between the environment and the organization, like it is not following the exact code of conduct that it is supposed to play for the community it is working for the organization it is, I mean, for the society it is working for, then there is a conflict between organization. And many a times you see that the community people in an organization does not have a good impact because of the organization working. So there is a conflict between, again, with the environment, the community, or again the external environment. It is always the conflict between the two which is having the negative impact, and those kind of conflict is called conflict between an organization and its environment. So we have seen the types of conflict as conflict within our individual, between individual, within a group, between the group, between organization and its environment as well. Now let us examine sources of conflict. Every time till now we have focused that what is conflict and what are the types of conflict, how many kinds of conflict are there, etc. Now what are the sources of conflict? If you say conflict is there, yes, conflict is there, conflict is there, but what are the sources of conflict? What is the basic source of conflict? See, sources we always mean to say that this is where the conflict has arisen, this is where the conflict has just started. So what is the basic source of conflict then? Basically it is all about failure to realize the expectation. Failure to realize expectation. That means expectations are being created by various stakeholders, like it might be government, it might be organization, it might be society, or any other sort of even family, social group, for various purposes. So the generation of expectation is not wrong, but failing to fulfill those expectations leads to frustration. Failing to seek that the expectation has been realized, that has been fulfilled, then definitely it is one of the source of conflict. So if the creation of expectation is faster than its fulfillment, then conflict is definitely sowed over there. You see that expectations are there, some expectations are not fulfilled, and who are they expecting from? They are expecting from external sources and it is not being fulfilled, and their expectations is not up to the mark, then definitely there is a source of conflict. It is definitely a source of conflict as well. It might be from the resources. See, resources, when we say, we always means to say that there is a scarcity of the resources, availability of the resources. See, what happens when you are working in an organization? Every department wants some of the resources to be fulfilled by the organization, but the limited resources are there, or the scarcity of the resources does exist, and definitely the conflict does arise in such situation. For example, finance may be a scarce, or any of the raw material might be a scarce. Because of the scarcity of raw material, the production department will be not giving the material in hand, and because of that, marketing department will come to the conflict, because it will not be able to market its products, promote its products on time, and it will not be delivered to the customer on time. Many kinds of such things where you are talking about resources in particular, or scarcity of resources, definitely it is one of the source of conflict. Focus on self. Focus on self in the sense, you are focusing only on the personal development. You're not focusing on even on the others development, or even not from the organization point of view, but you're focusing only on in your individual basis or individual profit orientation. So then there will be a source of conflict. A conflict does arise because everything has to go hand in hand. In the morning session we have studied regarding integration. Integration should be from the individual point of view, as well as organization point of view. Both goals should be integrated. If both the goals are not integrated, and you are simultaneously going on in your own way, own pace, only focusing on your self interest, then definitely it is a source of conflict, because every time the focus on self will not work together. If you're going hand in hand, then definitely it might help. The power is also a source of conflict. Say, what happens when it is one of the important motivational drives is power, which enables the individual to access the benefits and privileges. However, if you're going up the organization and the power is limited, and you're not able to move up the ladder, then definitely this kind of conflict does arise. So power is one such thing where it is not only a motivating factor, but also everybody in the organization or an employee will aspire for, because it is what the autonomy or the freedom or the power, accessing the duties and responsibilities, accessing the power, authority, all that they would like to enjoy. If such kind of autonomy comes into a stake, then definitely it is a source of conflict. Ideological differences, this is the top priority of being the source of conflict. Ideological differences will definitely lead to the conflict. Say, everybody will not be having the equal likes and dislikes. So one concept will be accepted by one, the other concept, the same concept will be rejected by someone. It all depends on the culture of that particular individual, the values, the culture, the ideologies the individual is having is different and is unique because of the environment they are brought up into. So this ideological differences definitely may not pose such an environment where everybody will be giving a coming to a consensus. So that ideological differences will definitely be a source of conflict. Unjust system in the sense, just we always say justice will be there, but when the system itself is not working in just, or it is being oppressed, it is being portrayed as an unjust one, and you are not having any justice, because see, many of such things comes in the organization, that somebody might get promotion, somebody might get demotion, somebody might get transfer, which is really a part of injustice to on one individual part. A promotion being justice to one particular person may not be the same concept, and it may create as injustice. He may also think that the promotion would have given to me also. Somebody would have been given the hike, somebody would not have been given the hike. The unjust system that is actually, if I could use the word, it is happening of the day, that itself will lead the source of conflict. And believe me that this is what is practically going on sometimes in an organization. Not every organization I'm speaking about, but most of the organization with this unjust system probably is the main source of the conflict. The change, yes, the change is also, we always say that change is the only thing which is constant. So change is always permanent in nature itself. But because of some changes, everybody might not be in a position to get accustomed to it. Say the management might bring some technological changes, and they want that the technological changes has to be accepted by the people or the employees working, but people might be resistant or reluctant in order to accept it. They may not be, because they may not be technically so much the good, and their experience, the age, that matters. Probably that will not be helping them to adapt the technology or the changes that the management wants to execute. So change is definitely one of the source of conflict also. So these are the sources of conflict: failure to realize the expectations, the expectations which is already built that has not been fulfilled; resources, the scarce, focus on self and not organization; power, ideological differences; unjust system, thyself and change. These are the sources of conflict. Now let us move on to how do you manage the conflict. Yes, conflict is of different types. Conflicts we have seen ranging from individual, within the individual, to between the individuals, to between the groups, to between the organization, and outside the organization, that is organization and environment. And we have also seen the sources of conflict. Now let us analyze how do you manage the conflict. Now, this is a very important aspect to discuss on. Managing conflict is much more, should be the talk of the day if you are talking about you are having the issues regarding conflict. The first and foremost thing is bringing the differences into the open. So one cannot hope to solve the problems unless the problems are known. You need to bring out the differences into open. See, sometimes the conflict just goes piles up and up, but you really don't know where the differences has started with. So it is better always to bring the differences into the open. That means open in the sense you discuss in an open platform. What are the differences? Why is that happening? Say an employee is having a continuous absenteeism. We'll imagine a situation where the employee is having a continuous absenteeism, and he's continuously absent and the supervisor is not happy about it. And ultimately he comes one particular day, he is not coming, again he is having irregularity in the attendance. So ultimately it is bringing some sort of conflict between the supervisor and the employee. Now that conflict will blast one day, or there is continuous difference of opinion among these supervisor and the employee, like for the aspect of productivity. So in order to solve this problem, it is always to bring the differences into open. Let the superior discuss why there is a continuous absence of that particular employee. Probably he might be having any personal problem, or the problem can be discussed with the supervisor, and probably that might be solved also. So it is always better to make the differences into the open. So that is where you can start with to handle the conflict, and find the significant features rather than dramatic features. Now this is very interesting one. See, what is the most aspect that is being concentrated here is understand the core of the conflict rather than insignificant ones which obscure the actual problem. What is the core of the conflict? We'll examine the same example now. Say the worker has been absent for continuously for certain days, and again it is in a repetitive manner. So if you would ask him directly, what is the source, why is that he is absent, he may give one or the other reason in a vague way. But if you make him to give the exact answer, you can just screen out which are the exact ones, which is the core of the conflict, or which is the core which is acting as a source of being absent to the organization, whether he's really interested in the job, or whether that problem can be solved by solving any of the other problem, any other financial problem he is having, anything which is acting as the core of the problem should be dealt out. So that is what they are trying to say. Significant features has to be focused on rather than dramatic features. That means you are just ignoring the insignificant ones from the significant ones you're trying to find out. Next, anticipation of a response. The conflict management says here is to anticipate the conflict from the other side and get ready with the response. See, anticipation in the sense you are not trying to avoid, but you are making yourself ready to see that the conflict will be raised, and how do you are ready to face it. See, as I said, one simple example is technologically some of the changes that they want to bring. We'll assume a situation that one particular organization has made it mandatory from the next year that a accounting software will be coming, rather than manual ones, will be going for an accounting software to be adopted for the accounting systems to be maintained. So definitely many of the most of the employees will assume that they are reluctant, they are not ready, because once it has been computerized, they might be reluctant to accept the change, adapt the change. They have to be friendly with the technology. They might not be ready. But if they anticipate, that means these are the things that I might face and how I have to get ready. So this is how you can manage the conflict. That means from the individualistic point of view, from the organizational point of view, please be ready regarding which is the response that I need to give. That means I'm talking in a positive way. So how do I have to prepare if that particular employee or even the organization, even though it has made a decision to implement, even the organization, even the individual has made an anticipation of what is the magnitude of this conflict, then probably they will try to bring out this conflict, and the management of conflict is done. So that is a beautiful way of managing the conflict. This is how you are bringing down the differences, making the significant features more intact rather than the dramatic ones, or anticipate the future. And of course, negotiation is yet another way. Now you're trying to bring the conflict, that's fine. Now how about if there is a negotiation? Now negotiation, we always know, like in our daily lives we say that if both the parties come to a negotiation, you are not agreeing on these terms, I'm not agreeing on these terms, then it is what we are finding to trying to negotiate upon. So negotiate is one such of a kind where it is acting as a important concept in this situation. So, negotiation is defined as the process of settling the differences between two conflicting parties with the expectation of minimizing the number of differences. Number of differences, at least it can be minimized, if not completely solved, but something where both the parties are trying to accept it upon. So, every desire that demands satisfaction and every need to be met is at least potentially an occasion for people to initiate the negotiation process. So but there are some conditions for negotiation. What are the different conditions? These are the conditions of negotiation. So when you say negotiation has to be made, then these are the things that they require. One is existence of two or more parties. Just a minute. Yeah, sorry. The existence of two or more existence of two or more parties, in the sense, obviously the negotiation has to take place between two or more parties. Obviously one party cannot have the negotiation, or otherwise it is insane to say that there is a conflict. Now two parties are there, then only certain issues has to be brought up. The two parties are having some differences of interest, then parties perceive some conflict of needs which are in tune of the other party. That means two parties or more parties should exist in order to have the negotiation. The desire for negotiation, this is very very important. Desire for negotiation, in the sense, there should be some desirousness for negotiation between the two parties, or otherwise one party is simply acting or dramatically acting that the negotiation has to happen, but he is not agreeing on the terms. No, their eagerness should be there, and they have to express that yes, there is a need for negotiation, because in order to maintain the cordial relationship between the parties, definitely there should be a negotiation. If the relationship has to be maintained, if everything should go in an order way, if everything should go in a systematic way, then it has to be built on the desire for negotiation. If there is no desire for negotiation, then why are you sitting on the negotiation? So it is of no point. There is no point in discussing regarding that. The third one is negotiability of the issue. That means both the party should have the sense that the issue is negotiable, and even one party disagrees, the negotiation process cannot be taken further. Say here they have given a different example. They have given regarding geographical boundaries between negotiable between Iraq and Kuwait. But when you're talking from organization point of view, every party should at least think in a rational and logical way that it is negotiable at least. Now, what does that mean? Negotiable, at least in the sense the representative of employer and employee will be there. We'll assume a situation. Employer should think that whatever the disturbances the employee is having, it is actually the in the negotiation negotiable format only. Or the employee should think that yes, whatever the employer is offering, that is in the negotiable format only. The issue should be negotiable. Say we can't take the issue as a simple example. Probably it might be insane to say like the employer has declared 5% of the increment, and the employee is demanding 25% in the share of the increment. Now there should be a sense, there should be a logical, there should be a rational way, and the issue should be in the part of negotiable. So that is where the negotiability should be the one of the content. Give and take attitude is yet another part. uh, Towards the resolution of the problem, it should be there. Like both the parties agree to give something before taking something to the other party. That means there should be give and take. Okay, if it is not 5% and this person is telling 10%, at least 6 to 7%, if you give this, then probably we'll be able to increase our productivity by working some more extra. So this is where give and take the of the attitude is being built upon. An element of trust, which is I consider this as the most and vital and prioritable element. The element of trust should be there. If even the negotiation process is completed and there is no trust is being built among the parties, then there is of no sort of negotiation being done. If there is a negotiation, then there should be an element of trust. If not trust, then why do you sit on the negotiation? The agenda should be where the trust is being present. Interdependence should also be there. They need to have some interdependence, or otherwise there is no question of negotiation between the parties who are unrelated. If both the parties are unrelated, then there is no interdependence. Then why they are coming for negotiation? So interdependence, as important as element of trust is, it is an important element. As important is the trust element for a particular negotiation, so is the interdependence between these two parties. There should be an at least we have to come to the negotiation in the sense what it should be benefited to him also, it should be benefited to me also. So that kind of interdependence is absolutely necessary. So these are the elements. You say that yes, negotiation, in order to have negotiation, some preconditions are there. There is existence between two or more parties, the desire for negotiation is there, negotiability of the issue should be of prominence in nature, give and take attitude, element of trust and interdependence. Now let us concentrate on steps in negotiation process. How do you negotiate? Now we have the conditions of negotiation. Let us now see which are the steps in negotiation process. The steps in negotiation process concentrates on these aspects. So these are the steps which are included in the negotiation process. Negotiation process starts with collection of information. First, the process starts with all the information should be at stake. All the information should be collected properly. The information pertaining to financial, non-financial, the stakeholders, probable outcome, you should have a broader idea, and all the necessary information that should be very much helpful in creating a negotiation between the parties should be collected. The second step is preparation. Preparation is what it is the responsibility of the negotiator to prepare the team which would be participating during the negotiation. So, what is the preparation involved then? Team members should be there. What is the problem that has to be briefed out? What are the implications if it is being done, if it is not being done? Ways to communicate, counter the other party. Which are the means to communicate or counter the other party? This can be a crucial stage of negotiation as the team gets ready for the battle. Rather than battle, I would say it is not very much good to give the word called battle, or I would say that it would be like you are ready on the grounds for negotiation. Or otherwise, if proper preparation is not there, then everything will end up in mess. Why? Because the preparation always stays with the collection of information. You are being prepared, say, we'll assume that proper team members are not there, proper problem itself is unknown to both the parties, you don't know what is the implication, then what is the necessary in sitting in the negotiation process? So preparation is absolutely a vital step. And there are some ground rules you have to follow. Ground rules in the sense the basic rules, some norms that has to be followed, some rules that has to be followed, the obligatory aspects that has to be followed. So ground rules means what? Negotiators, where are the number of negotiators, the place, what is the time limit, very important. Simply the negotiation cannot go on for a day, for a two, for 3 days, for a week. There is some time limit that the negotiation should process on. The constraints, very very important aspect is constraints. What are the constraints that each of the member is having? One party, what is his constraint, the other party, what are his constraints. What is the specific course of action that has to be taken place? Either he has to agree or he has to agree. Ultimately, taking the same example, if 5% increase in the salary increment has to be done, the other party should know what is the specific course of action if only 5% increase has been done, if not 10%, if 6%, if 7%. Specific course of action, you should have the complete idea. The communication pattern, you cannot take you cannot take the other aspects. You have to go in a proper way of communication. You cannot go and take a war. The communication pattern should be really very good. The exchange of information and data should also be done in an exact, in an organized, and in a scientific manner. So these are the ground rules for negotiation. Limits of negotiation. Limits of negotiation, in the sense the negotiators needs to understand which are their limits, which are the higher limits, which are the lower limits. Say for example, as taking the same example, if the employer says it is for 5%, the employee cannot say I should take 20% of the hike in the salary. Or the employer cannot say that I am going to give you only 1% of the hike, and the employee cannot say that I am ready to take only 25%. No, every party should know which are the higher limits and which are the lower limits of the negotiation. So this is a possible range of alternatives in which negotiators operate and take final decision. That means every negotiation should be bounded with lower level as well as the higher level of organization. Alternatives. Fifth one is bargaining. Actual process is like bargaining, where both the parties come together, sit, discuss the actual problems, what is the outcome. But it is not very simple. Bargaining is not like as we deal with the vegetable vendor. The bargaining that takes place in the organization is covering the legal aspects too. So the bargaining process definitely will have, a different perspective. Bargaining will tell you regarding what are the problem outcomes, what are the real problems. Say every time it might not be employee perspective, it might be from employer perspective also. He might be also telling that it is not possible to go to that hike because the profit that we have derived is only up to this much, and this is the only thing that we can give at the higher scale. So bargaining is not like you are simply telling and finally you are coming to an issue. No, the actual problem should be known to both the parties and probable outcomes should be known to both the parties. So that is where bargaining, it is not as simple. As I have highlighted it, please observe learners that it is not simple as it appears, as there might be many permutation and combination in process of settling. So it is not as simple as that when a bargaining takes place. Closure and implementation is yet another part. If the outcome is reached or both the parties have agreed, there should be some agreement, there should be some written document, and focus is on the implementation part. That is the last phase, where at the time the resources constraints, personnel have to see that these are the where challenging aspects that we are concentrating on. Feedback, most of the occasions negotiation might need the feedback also, which really can be a positive, on a positive note, it might help. So these are the process of negotiation. How exactly negotiation take place? It might be through collection of information, preparation, ground rules, bargaining, closure, and feedback. Unit 8 speaks about leadership and group dynamics. So before going into that, anything you want to discuss, anything you want to add, you want to contribute, or anything you want to discuss in detail, please let me
No,
know.
madam. No, madam. All are clear, madam.
Okay, so we can
Continue,
proceed
madam.
then.
Ji, ji.
Okay,
Yes, madam.
yeah, okay. Okay, now let us concentrate on Unit 8, leadership and group dynamics. So these many aspects are there in according to the syllabus of leadership and group dynamics. It is actually very interesting always to speak about leadership, because why it is interesting is leadership is one way of influencing or making your followers to follow to achieve a certain objective. When you're talking from organizational perspective, leadership is all about the quality of influencing process. It is all about influencing process of leaders, and you are helping the followers to achieve the organizational objectives through certain change. Now that is where we have to focus on. Through certain change, it should always be there. So leadership, according to P.F. Drucker, one of the greatest management thinker, leadership is the lifting of people's vision to a higher side. So this is a very beautiful aspect of leadership, that you're lifting the people's vision to a higher side, in the sense till now where they are, you're trying to make them, motivating them, lifting them, raising their performance to a higher standard, building of their personality beyond its normal limitations. Normal limitations is what we actually try to limit ourselves by putting a boundary, but leader is one who help us to excel from that, who help us to come out of that normal limitation and seek and tell us that this is where you are. So that is the leadership. There is comparatively so much of differences between management and leadership. Let's concentrate on a few of them. When you talk about thinking process, see, this is the beautification of leadership. When you think, when you start to see the category of thinking process, management is the one which initiates, which focuses on things, which looks inwards, which accepts reality. But leadership is one which originates the thinking process. I think this is really a very fantastic aspect of leadership. It originates the thinking process. Now that makes the differences between a manager and a leader. A leader is the person who tries to originate the thinking process. He focuses on people, because, as you see, we have seen in the previous slide that he helps to people's vision to raise the highest site, raise the performance of higher standard, etc. So he focuses on people. Manager looks inward, leadership looks outward. That means he focus on the externalities also, exposure wise. Then accepts the reality from management body, he investigates the reality. Now that is where the small thin line of difference lies between management and leadership. Investigates reality, in the sense nobody proclaims to investigate the reality, but leadership process is such a thing where in the reality you try to find out the facts. Accepting the reality is one. How do you manage the things? By accepting the reality, you try to manage the things, but leadership is the one who tries to investigate. We find many answers to many of the questions when you analyze the leadership styles. Then they are the real persons who are always forward. They investigate the reality. Direction setting, when you're talking about the category, the management is concentrating on operational plans, improve the present plans that is being formulated, immediate financials or sees trees, something where they have tried to concentrate on, but we'll have that comparison through leadership. While operational plans, he is concentrating on vision, leader. Improve the present, he creates the future. Immediate financials, he creates new markets. See, that is a very beautiful distinction between these two. He sees the trees, he sees the forest. That means a broader vision is there in the leadership style. When you talk about employee relation, management is all about the tight control, or subordinates are there. So when you talk about leadership, he empowers. He doesn't control, he empowers. The subordinates there, associates are there. When manager, he talks about subordinates, leader talks about associates. That means everybody is associated with him, and he never treats as the persons under him, but they are being treated at equal. He instructs, he learns. He directs and coordinates, he trusts and develops. So trust is an important element that the leader will always have and he tries to develop. The mode of operating here, it is efficiency, it is effectiveness. Ask how and when, here is ask what and why. And deals with complexity, he embraces complexity and he manages changes, he creates the change. Now, that is really a wonderful feature of the leadership. The leadership style itself says, or the leadership style itself relies on this aspect, where you can see a major aspect here, like manages the changes but creates the changes here, create the change. So change is a constant thing that we have already seen, but creating the change in the sense what, you are making the changes to happen. You are managing here, but you are making the changes to happen here into reality. So that is where the leadership strength lies. Decision methods, when you're talking about, from the management here, policies, rules, regulation, but leadership works on values and principles. While management relies on process and system, he relies on ideas and people, achieves what's expected, strives to excel. Well, serves the top managers, he serves clients and customers. So, this is where a day outer look and a broader vision, you can have a classification between management and the leadership. Now, what are the traits of a great leader? Any leader that is coming into your mind, any great philanthropist, any great a great reformer whom you give in your mind as a leader. The traits of a great leader are these: the vision, enthusiasm, integrity, curiosity, risk taking ability, generosity. Each of the element are really wonderful to discuss on. But I'll choose only one or two things to discuss or to ponder on. Passion or enthusiasm is always a trait of a good leader. So enthusiasm is like, we will, however motivated we are, every time 24 by 7, it's of human tendency to may not be so enthusiastic, but a great leader really possess this quality, that he is always enthusiastic in nature because he's passionate about what he's doing. Many a times you see many of the employers or employees, they might not be passionate in what they're doing. Passionate just says that you are too happy with the work you're doing. You're passionate about it. But that kind of passionate, that kind of enthusiasm, you may not find in everyone. If you are a great leader, then definitely you will be passionate about what you're doing. And generosity and curiosity are the two blessed ones for a great leader, the characteristics of a great leader. Curiosity should always be there, like not only bringing them to the heights, but curiosity always takes you to the creativity. But generosity is like, it is like not sympathy but empathy. Generosity is you're trying to build upon, you're being so generous in understanding others. So that is a great trait of a leader. You're not just understanding who are they, but you're trying to understand what is the source of the problem and trying to be generous enough in order to listen to them. So that is a trait of a great leader according to me. Yeah, principle centered leadership, these are different types of other concepts that has been concentrated on your in your material. It says, according to Stephen R Covey, he says, the leader is one who is having an attitude of continuous learning, service oriented, radiate positive energy, never negative. Radiate positive energy in the sense always being positive is one thing. Radiate positive energy in the sense he's always been radiated with, he's always been encompassed with. He is always with that high charishma. So that is where you see positive energy is being glittered on. Believe in other people, balance life. See, this is really, everybody probably can't do it. Between spiritual and working life, you're trying to balance. You're leading a balanced life. That means a personal life, working life, spiritual life. You're trying to lead this balance. Yeah, that means everything you are taking in a very positive way, calm, composed. And you see the next one. It says, see life as an adventure. That means every time you're taking it as a risk aspect, and you're taking in to the above heights. So what do we do in adventure trip? We go to the heights, we venture, we take the risk, we go ahead. That is what is called as adventure, right? We never come back, we try to go ahead, move ahead. So see life as moving ahead. Complement their weaknesses with the strength of others. So that is very beautiful attitude. Complement your weakness with the strength of others, in the sense you are seeing, you're admiring the other persons. You're not seeing that yours is a weakness, and you're not jealous of the other persons who are having the strengths of what the weakness you have. So you're having the complement of the weakness with the strengths of others. The exercise of self renewal, probably most of the times, as I see, most of the times we miss this nowadays. Self renewal is happening only to license or DL or something like that, but renewal is not happening for self. So the exercise for self renewal is an absolute personality trait of a leadership. So this is what Stephen R. Conway says, that they are principle centered leadership. He termed them as principle centered leadership. Other personality traits as being portrayed by the thinker, other traits are surgency, that means quickness and cleverness. You have to be very extrovert, not introvert. Agreeableness is yet another personality trait, where personality behavior is so strong when a person is called warm, easygoing, compassionate, friendly, sociable. Again, agreeableness in the sense, you're not adamant, you're not unfriendly, you're not cold. That means just we are putting the opposite word over there. You're not cold in the sense you're not adamant. You're warmth enough to greet. You're warmth enough to accept. You're warmth enough to agree. You're not difficult character. You're not uncompassionate. Adjustment is yet another trait where you see emotional stability of the employees there. Being calm and composed is what I can say. Being calm, good under pressure, relaxed, secure, positive, praising, self control, negative criticizing others. All these are really not there. I mean, adjustment is where you are having the emotional stability. The other aspect is regarding conscientiousness, where this personality trait is related to achievement. It is the balanced aspect between responsible, dependable, to irresponsible, undependable. You're not dependent on anyone, you are completely responsible for what you're taking. If you are having a negative credits, you are acceptable to take it. If you are having positive, you are acceptable to take it. You are not going too high, you're not coming too low. Whenever the acceptance comes into a part picture, credibility, conformity is there. You are ready to put in your extra time. Openness to experience, in the sense, this is yet another personality dimension that includes willing to change and try new things. That is where we are talking about adventurous. You are ready to take up the new things and go ahead. You seek the change, you try new things, you are open to creative. So that is what is called as open to experience. So this is what the personality traits of a leader speaks about. Yeah. Now let us discuss on the style of leadership. The styles of leadership. Many a time, while doing in the class also, I have specified so many times to the students that Uh, those who are too, very strict, we call them as Hitler, and we always say autocratic leader. So, what is the style of leadership then? We have some good leaders, very influential leaders. We call them charismatic leader. Sometimes we have the respect for the people. We call them as democratic leader as well. No, sometimes we see the leaders who are, chalo, you do for whatever you want, no problem. But ultimately, I want this result. But you can take up the autonomy and do it on yourself. So that is laissez-faire leader. We see democratic leader, participative leader. So then, how many kinds of leadership styles are there? Leadership style starts with autocratic leadership. I mean, that is one of the type of leadership where here you see he is acting as an autocrat, and decisions of course are made very quickly and work is being done efficiently. But here the other persons who are involved, like the staff and team members, they have very little opportunity to make the suggestions. So that is where the leader himself take all the decisions, but though it is very quick in nature, there is no participation of the fellow members. Bureaucratic leaders are like they follow the norms, code of conduct, rules very rigorously. Here where the it is helpful for the organization where employees do routine tasks, they cannot rely on flexibility, creativity, innovation. That is where the rules are being upheld over there. They work according to the norms, they work according to rules and regulation. That is bureaucratic leadership. Charismatic leadership is an excellent leadership style where you resemble transformational leadership. See, there are two types of leadership: transactional and transformational. Transformational leadership is like you are having a positive influence over the people, over your fellow mates, and you inspire their enthusiasm. Okay, and you're motivating them, you're making them energized, you're creating an excitement, you're creating a commitment in an enormous way. So that is where you find charismatic leadership. And the fourth one is all about democratic or participative leadership. You find democratic leaders finalizing the decision, but unlike autocratic, you are involving the team members for the decision making process. So that is where you find democratic leadership style. It is where you are trying to make usage, or you are involving the people into the decision making. Laissez-faire leadership, however you pronounce, some pronounce it as laissez-faire. Laissez-faire leadership is like a French phrase where you just please observe the meaning. It says leave it be, and it describes the leaders who allow their people to work on their own. That means the leader is not having any stake over here. The leader will not come and ask how it has to be, where it has to be, how it should go on, etc. If needed, he is involving, or otherwise not. If leader monitors the performance and gives feedback to team members regularly, this leadership style can be really effective. So it is most likely to be effective when individual team are experienced, skilled, self-starters. So this is where laissez-faire leadership, you're giving some autonomy to your team members and you're saying that you can do it on your own. Here, managers don't have sufficient control over the work and their people. Servant leadership is yet another type which has been proposed by Robert Greenleaf. He describes that a leader, often not formally recognized as such, when someone at any level within the organization leads simply by meeting the needs of the team, he or she can be described as servant leader. They have high integrity and lead with generosity. That means it is by chance that you are getting a aspect to lead the team and you're meeting the needs of the team. So it is a servant leadership. Yes, this is where we have seen the leadership styles. Now, very importantly, we are entering into the theories of leadership. So, the theories of leadership, I have three to four types of leadership. Then we'll be entering into the group dynamics. Yeah, leadership and management models and theories. Where at the first part, if time permits, I will come here. I would like to go ahead with managerial grit. Yeah, this is really important for you to understand regarding managerial grit. See, this grid, as you know, it contains of series of rows and columns. This grid contains. This is one of the theory given by Blank and Mountain. They have divided the entire grid into two types. This is called as managerial grid or leadership grid. It is concerned with two important things. One is concern for people, and the other one is concern for production. There is no grid here. Just a minute, I'll put that grid. Hope you can see this.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
Ma'am.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, so this is the grid that they are telling. This grade is a leadership grade where you can see this concern for people and the concern for results or concern for performance, as you say. This has been entirely divided. This grid actually should contain the lines over here, and it is being given as 1 1 1 9 9 9 and 9 1. This x-axis is concerned with concern for result, and y-axis is concerned with concern for people. So if the manager is on encouraging on impoverished leadership style, that means here the concern for result is also low at 1, concern for people is at also low. And if the thing is at 1 9, 1 9 is like it is called as country club leadership. Here what happens is high people, low production. That means this is high, 9 is high, the concern for people is high, but concern for results is not there. That means this type of leadership is most concerned about the needs and feeling of the members of his or team, but he is not completely okay with the concern of, but he is always concerned with the people. When you talk about 9-1, here it is concern for result, but the concern for people is 1. But when you say regarding 9-9, here both are having at the equal pace, that is at the stake. You are having concern for result also at 9 and concern for people also at 9. So they are exactly what is called as team leader. But when you come for 5-5, that is middle of the road, it is where you find medium production or medium people. So this is what I wanted to show you regarding the leadership grid, whereby you can have the classification of 1 9 1 1 9 1 9 9 and 5 5. This is actually where you find the managerial grade. And in the organization, you can please check what kind of the organization you are really having, whether it is concentrating on the 1119 or 91 or 55 or team leadership. So as we have seen in the chart over there, it is all about, when you say about low production or low people, that means for production also it is low, and for people it is also low, so that the leader is really very ineffective in nature. He has high regard for creating system for getting the job done. Sorry, neither he has that for creating the system, nor he has for creating the work environment. So it is completely leading to disharmony. When you're coming for 1 9, high people with low production is most concerned about needs and feelings of the people about his. That is what I showed there. Country club leadership is where you find the needs of the people are being at the higher level rather than the production. So these people are operate under assumption that let the team members be happy and secure, then they will work hard. If they are happy, they are satisfied, then they will work hard. That is country club leadership. 9 1 is where you seek that their perish leadership you call about, and because it is high production but low people, that means your concern for people is very low and your concern for production is very high. You talk about works, rules, strict policies, rules, norms, regulations, which is exactly being high, but you are seeking that, again, that is not beneficial. But when you come to, let us first talk about 9 9, high production, high people. That means you're concerned with the production way also. You're concerned with the people also. That means you are seeking the production needs and needs of the people equally. So that is where you find the team leadership. Middle of the road is where you're trying to balance between these two competing concerns. You are trying to compromise both the things, whether it is for the concern for people or whether it is for concern of the production. So this is where you find really important in the grid, where it is also called as managerial grid, being proposed by Blake and Mountain. Now next one is regarding leadership styles of path goal theory. Path goal theory is being developed by Robert House, and we can see that in the expectancy theory of motivation, whatever the proposer has to say, that the same is being highlighted over here. It is based on the premises that an employee's perception of expectation between his effort and performance is greatly influenced or affected by leader's behaviors. If the leader behavior is really being positive, then the performance and the efforts that the expectancy is being provided, then definitely it is going to a positive note. If the leader's behavior is not in the same way as he's expecting, is not up to the expectation, then it is going in a negative way. So this is where the path goal theory says, and according to them, they have four types of leadership. One is directive, supportive, participative, and achievement oriented. Directive leadership style is where the leader provides guidelines, lets the subordinates know what you really expect from them, set the standards, he controls the behavior. So, disciplinary action is there. So, this is task oriented one. But when you say supportive, he is somewhat in friendly nature towards the subordinate, and he displays personal concern also for their well-being, for their welfare. It is like people oriented, just where as we have seen in managerial grid. No, the same thing we are seeing here in the people oriented. So when you say participative leadership, he involves the other members also, group decision making. He shares the information related to tasks, related to goals, what are the things that can be done, etc. That is participative. When you say achievement orientation, so leader is there who is acting as a very good orienter, where he is setting the goals, where he is setting the the challenging goals or encouraging the employees to reach the peak performance. This one you also can see this as goal setting theory. Leadership styles here, they are not mutually exclusive, but leaders are capable of selecting more than one kind of style suited for particular situation. So it is according to the achievement orientation that they are going to have. Now let us concentrate on group dynamics. Here we'll be concentrating on what exactly is the group and what are the dynamic characteristics of group, and what are the stages of formation of a group, how a group is performed, how a group is created. All this will be concentrating on. So groups and teams that contribute to the organizational effectiveness are really great in nature, because there are group is that matters. If it is positive oriented, then definitely it is very good in nature. How many kinds of groups are there? So types of groups and teams, that might be formal group, that might be informal group, cross functional group, top management team, research and development team, command groups, task forces, etc. Formal group, you say, yeah, as we have seen, formal communication, we have seen in the earlier session in the morning what is formal. So formal is where it is coming in a structurized way, that is being established by the organization to achieve its objectives. Cross functional team, as the name itself suggests, it is between different departments, like one is from purchase, one is from production, one is from quality department. So it is cross functional teams, different coming from different backgrounds. Informal groups, if you could remember, I have stressed this more than two times, that informal is, you can't avoid those informal groups. Informal groups is not like the structured way. You can't avoid that group. All these things we have discussed in the morning. So informal is where you can find the representatives of the employees from various departments. So that is informal. Top management team is yet another kind of group, where you see all the top persons, where you see CEO, the president, all those things, all those persons will come under top management team. Research and development team, where you see the members who are having some expertise knowledge or having some experience that is needed to develop the R&D, so they are coming under R&D team. Again, command group, they are the subordinates who report to the same supervisor. It might be a departmental head or a unit head, etc. Task forces, where you have this department or divisions for a specific task to be completed. That's why we, most of the times, we call them as ad hoc community. That is, it is for a temporary basis that you have done. Self-managed work, they are certain group of employees where they work on their own and monitor the quality of goods on their own they provide. You have virtual team. A virtual team, as the name itself suggests, they never meet. They have the communication or the relationship through the computer networks also. Friendship group you have, that is more of social in nature, and interest, where you are having common goal. That is also a sort of informal group, where they are having some common interest and they have come together. Yeah, this is really important for you to understand how a group is developed. This is obviously important because everybody needs to know how a group is formed, how it is adjourned. Of course, we are talking from an organizational perspective. The first stage of the group is forming. See, when the group, any of the group in an organization which is at the forming stage, it is really at the forming stage. Forming in the sense, they have the members that are helping to familiarize themselves. This is often referred to as dependent stage. They tend to depend on job definition, task analysis, why they have joined this group, all these aspects. They are still in the forming stage. Storming stage is where the group have some conflicts that is being confronted among the members, and they try to criticize each other. Okay, so here the issues like who is going to do what. What is my identification, what is my role identification, which are the operational rules and procedures that I need to follow, what is my recognition. You can observe the last line. It says the stage is also referred to as counter dependent stage, when members tend to flex their muscles in search of identity. That means everybody wants to identify what is my role, what is my identity. So that is where the storming stage comes into picture. Norming stage is where they start to resolve the issues that are creating the conflict and begin to develop social agreements. That means, okay, you do this job, you do this job, I'll be doing this job, I am recognized like this, you are recognized like this. So what is the interdependence? So if I have to complete my task, this is what I expect from you, and if your task has to be completed, that is what I'm being expected from your side. So this is the interdependency that they are coming to understand with, develop the coordination, develop the cohesion. Performing stage is where they actually perform. Sorted out, a social structure is being, who is what, they know what is the roles and who is being designated which task, who, what is his designation. All this is being done, and this group is sensing its growth and maturity, becomes independent, relying its own resources. This group starts performing. Adjourning is where, when a particular task is being completed, it is being completed. That means the closure, that includes rites, rituals suitable of the event. These may include social parties, ceremonies, exhibit emotional support or celebration of their success. That means a thing that has come to an end. So this is where you find the group development, which is definitely very important for you to understand regarding the forming stage, the storming stage, the norming stage, performing stage, and adjourning stage. So storming stage is really very difficult because it is very critical and crucial. If something goes wrong, then it goes here only, or otherwise it will enter into the next stage. Yes, I will be now concentrating on the last part, that is communication and feedback. Here we'll be only concentrating on how many types of communication are there, and there are certain aspects that has been given in your syllabus regarding communication and feedback. We'll be trying to understand which are the types of communication are there and who is a good communicator. So the basic purpose of communication is to promote a common understanding of messages. If you could remember, I told you in the early morning that yes, communication can be said is as effective one when you say that it has been exactly being communicated in the same way that I want you to understand. The communication, whatever I am telling now, the same way you have to understand. That is what is called as communication. But communication can be done in a formal way and informal way. So when you say formal way, is something a channel, formal channel, that means it is where you find that it is going in a proper channel. It can be downward, it can be upward, it can be lateral or diagonal. But when you say informal channel, informal channel is where you find that it is not belonging to an individual, but almost it belongs to a group. So informal channel is like rumors are there. It doesn't go through a proper channel. Here you are going to have this communication in order to exchange the ideas, the feelings, the information that are happening within and outside the organization. So that is where informal channels come into picture. See, the direction of communication, as I've already said, it can be downward, it can be upward, it can be lateral. So, when you say downward communication, it is the communication which is being flowing from higher level to the lower level. That means a top level management is passing some of the memos, some directions, some messages to the downward. Okay, I mean to the next level. So, that is downward communication. Upward communication is where the communication is being interacted from the lower level to the higher level. So that is upward. That means a communication is being passed or forwarded from the lower level to the higher level. So if you say higher level to lower level, it can be like the plants, the rules, the procedures they have to follow, they will be passing from higher to lower, from lower to higher level, in the sense some grievance mechanism might be there, some participative management aspects might be there, some open door policies might be there. So all this will be passed from upward communication, that means from downward to the upward. Lateral communication, in the sense that takes place between members of the same group or groups working at the same level. So it can be diagonals also. It is like information ideas view among the individuals who have to work on the same project. Say one project is there where a representative is from other department and they are sharing the ideas between them. So that is the lateral communication. Interpersonal communication consists of oral communication, written communication, non-verbal communication. See, all these are really important aspects. Like oral communication, it can be like speeches, group discussion. But the very good advantage of oral communication is that if somebody is not understanding, you can have the immediate feedback and you can say that no, I can't understand, you're much speedier. Some feedback you can give and you can interact. But what happens in written communication is it is through, email, it is through fax, it is through a letter, fax. All these are written communication. uh, if the oral communication has some advantages, even the written communication has certain advantages also. However, you have this uh, also one fact that no organization can have an existence without written communication. So obviously oral communication is there, but written communication is the obligatory factor of any of the organization. If the sender will be able to reach the large group, and the most important advantage is that information is not distorted during the process. When oral communication is there, dear learners, it so happens that the communication is going to have one or the other way being distracted. You have told six sentences which are very important, and only five sentences would have been communicated, only three sentences, and that too the sentences might not be clear. That happens in oral communication, but written communication is being excluded from that. Non-verbal communication is a very very important aspect. See, when you are trying to have an emotional dimension, say your body movements, your posture, your gesture, your facial expression, the distance between the sender and the receiver is being measured in these terms. Non-verbal communication is absolutely more than the verbal communication, is what do I think of, or what do I prefer to. The qualities of a good communicator. Who is a good communicator then? Who is focused? Who has an effective plan regarding what is that I have to communicate? What is that I have to focus on? What is that I have to be, accelerate, respect the ideas of others? If I'm having the command over the language, the subject matter, delivery mechanism, very important. Command over the language, if the language itself is not good, then probably it is acting as a barrier. If the subject matter, you don't know about the subject matter, what do you want to convey, then probably it will go out of the diversion, it will go out of the way, it will go out of the syllabus. Many of the times the students will say, no ma'am, the question paper is out of the syllabus. So subject matter itself is not correct. The delivery mechanism is also a very important aspect. The delivery mechanism, is it through this like PowerPoint or any kind of such delivery mechanism, where there is no noise, or there is no destruction, there is no disturbance, that is also a very good quality of a good communication. Empathetic, receptive and friendly is obviously very definitely needed. You should always think what the listener is also thinking of when you're saying certain things. So whether they are receptive, whether they are friendly. So active listener and observer is also a characteristics of a good listening skills or a good communicator. As I believe that everybody will agree with me when I say that there is a difference between hearing and listening. Listening is where you have to be an active listener, and observer being a very radiant observer. If you are, then you can definitely see that yes, the observation is very effective. Now, before going to the last aspect of barriers of communication, process of communication is vitally very important for your examination. I mean, the aspect of communication. Process of communication, all it starts with the conception, encoding, medium, decoding, and feedback. Conception is where it starts with an idea. Conception in the sense what the idea I have, do I have a clarity of thought in that? So that is the conception. Encoding in the sense, how do I see that my idea, my thought is being encoded, whether it is through symbols, whether it is through language, how it is being transmitted. And very importantly, I will be seeing on the medium, through which channel am I selecting as a medium, through which channel am I informing you, or am I communicating with you? That is medium. Decoding is like it is in the process after the message is received, how the receiver is going to decode that. See, what I am saying, is it in the same way that you are interpreting and decoding it? So that is decoding. So, decoding is like whatever I have thrown light on. Is it in the same way that you are taking it, you are receptive in the same way? That is decoding. Decoding is you are decoding. Decoding is like you are removing the coding and you are accepting in the same way what I say. Feedback is once the receiver accepts the sender, it is necessary to also sometimes, as I said, many a times the students will be nodding their head saying yes. Sometimes the students will be putting their hand on their chin and will be listening. So that itself is a feedback that whether it is a good communication or not, that says that it is really interesting. If they were feeling sleepy, then that is also a good feedback. Why? Because it is not an effective communication. However, it also says that any of the person might be a not, might not be either good receptor or not a good listener. But this is how the process of communication goes upon: conception, encoding, medium, decoding, and feedback. At last, we'll be seeing regarding barriers to communication. Barriers to communication is like filtering is one of the barrier. Filtering is where you see many a times we see effective communication is not possible when exactly it is not being uh, communicated, and you're filtering something and saying the other one. So that becomes the distortion of reality. So what is supposed to be conveyed is not conveyed. So that is filtering. Perception is everybody looks in their own perception. Everybody looks whatever is being, see, a particular picture is being perceived in a different way. A particular picture, what I perceive, you may not perceive the same. So perception also is a distortion of the communication which is not being said properly. Information overload, in the sense, if too much of information is there, then probably there is, that is also a barrier to communication. Too much of information, it is not easy to digest. Emotions is also a part. Rationality doesn't come into picture when you're coming for emotions. So rational is where you logically think and communicate. Emotions is where you are giving importance to emotions and not logical. You're not rational while being communicated, so that might also influence and act as a barrier to communicate. Language is yet another important thing, as I already specified it. Language is like you're not good in language, you know all the things, but you're not able to communicate with a proper usage of language, then that is not at all a good indicator of communication. That is a barrier for communication as well. Personal ego, yes, that is where you find that you want to communicate, but there is a lot to communicate, but you don't want to communicate because of your ego. or such kind of things that is coming in between you as an employer and employee. So that is the greatest disadvantage. Technology, some might be good in technology, some might be not technological driven are there, some might are not in technological driven. Technological revolution, nobody is somebody is respecting that. So technology is a great enabler in the process of speedy exchange of information is possible, but if the increasing technologization of communication, individuals are not trying to adapt to it, then it is a barrier. At last, the communication feedback is very much necessary. And effective communication is one only if it is having a good feedback. Feedback always helps to get the shortcomings, get out of the shortcomings, or focus on what is my shortcoming and how to overcome them. So feedback is absolutely necessary in any of the work that has to be executed, that is being executed. So providing feedback on any of the job performance or on the personality of the subordinate, I mean the performance of the employee, then definitely it will be a very good aspect for the communication. So that is all we have seen for the session regarding communication. And we have seen and we have covered the same aspects with respect to organizational development. We have covered what is organizational behavior, conflict management, leadership group dynamics, and communication and feedback. I have tried to cover maximum of it. If there are anything to discuss or ponder on, please let me know. Or otherwise, we'll meet in the next session. If there is anything to share, please let me know about it.
Madam, most important topic for examination in
Yeah,
in your
in this one. In the is it? Yeah,
in
yeah.
your lecture. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Tell me most important unit for
Okay.
examination.
Sure, sure. Shall I
Yeah.
do one thing? I'll complete the next session and I will give a overall aspect regarding which are the important points that you have to check it on for examination.
Yes, madam.
Yeah, fine, fine. So for the last session, can we all meet at 4:30?
4:30, madam.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, madam.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.